Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. This is Laurie Smith on Blog Talk Radio. It is 6 o'clock here in the morning on Monday, June the 14th. I'm so happy to be here. This is One Child Abuse Survivor to Another, and we're on for 30 minutes. It's a live internet streaming radio broadcast from blogtalkradio.com. I have the chat room open if anybody would like to go and sit in there, and if anyone's up at this time in the morning. And I want to continue on where we left off last week, and we're talking about coping lists, and it's some really great coping lists from Michael C. Irving's website, which is www.irvingstudios.com. And Michael C. Irving is a psychotherapist. He's a sculptor, and he's the founder and creator of the Child Abuse Monument in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And he is a survivor himself of child abuse, and he knows firsthand, the pain and the trauma involved in child abuse and how hard it is to cope as an adult survivor of child abuse. So he's done some amazing work, and he's come up with some awesome stuff for survivors of child abuse. I hope you will check his website out, and the coping lists on there are really good. I just like they're so detailed, and he really gives people some good ideas on how to create our own coping lists, right? To personalize our own coping lists, right? So this is so important when we're having some flashbacks, or we're having a sort of a crisis in our lives that just sort of brings back all this stuff from the past, and then all of a sudden we can't focus, and we lose our grounding. There's all kinds of great ways we can get that back and regain our sense of focus and stay calm and relaxed, and there's just different ways that we can do this. And I think these coping lists are really good for anybody who's dealt with trauma in their life of any type. Life is pretty stressful, and it can really throw some serious curveballs at us. So I think that these coping lists really are handy for everybody, and not just survivors. So we left off talking about boundaries. On his website, there's if you look under the tab Adult Survivors of Child Abuse, you'll see that he's got coping lists there. And we were looking at boundaries. And I'll just read from the top of the page a little bit just to refresh everybody where we kind of left off. We left off, excuse me, at creating physical boundaries. And we talked about, last week we were talking about identifying boundaries, physical distance, emotions, time, space, thoughts, and also creating cognitive boundaries. And he says here, abuse destroys boundaries. It says, during child abuse, boundaries are totally ignored, violated, and shattered. To survive abuse, you had to disassociate from any sense of boundary. As the deadening response to abuse became habitual, you missed out on developing the inner sense of boundaries, and you did not pick up the lessons that healthy role models in your world displayed. So it says part of the healing and coping process for survivors of abuse is to reconnect with the inner sense of boundary. And to learn ways to give yourself boundaries and let others know what your boundaries are is a difficult but vital task. And so, it's so important for people to know about this stuff, right? We have to know, we have to really know and how to recognize and how to set these boundaries, right? If we were not shown how to do this as children, and obviously quite often, and in most cases in abusive environments that children grow up in, they don't have no one has shown them how to do it. It's not something that would be natural to them, and so that's why as an adult, we have to go back and learn this stuff. You know what I mean? Because it's so important, right? It says to have good boundaries, you have to identify them and think about what they are. There's physical distance. Physical distance refers to the space that you have around yourself and others. For example, being too close or too far away. So it's like if someone's too close to you physically, and past that point where you would consider, someone coming within a distance to you, whether it would be a safe distance that you would feel comfortable with. There's emotions. Having difficulty with emotional boundaries means not being able to distinguish between your feelings and others' feelings, or merging with someone's emotional energy. And time. Problems with boundaries over time means not distinguishing between present, past, and future. It is a feeling yesterday's traumas are occurring in the here and now, or being absorbed in the dread of fear that something terrible is going to happen. So those are problems with time, boundaries. Space, issues with space. means not knowing that the place you are in is not somewhere else. For example, your home feels like the place where you were abused. And then there's thoughts. Having what others think dramatically affect you is an example of not having healthy boundaries between you and them. So see, there's all these issues surrounding boundaries and, survivors, adult survivors of child abuse, and what we have to, what we have to, we have to actually learn how to do this and how to overcome this stuff, right? And how to learn how to set these boundaries. And so we were talking on Friday about the creating cognitive boundaries, and that was, consciously thinking about how we feel and what we need to say, visualizing a barrier around negative emotions, see a barrier or a wall between what we want to keep out, right? Visualize a protective bubble around ourselves. These are cognitive boundaries and things that we can do to help ourselves, right? And so trust your gut feeling and inner voice. I really like that because I do rely on my inner voice and my inner gut feelings, and I think it's so important to listen to yourself, listen to your inner voice, right? Practice saying no assertively but not aggressively. This is something that I've had to, over the years work on for sure. Tell people what your limits are, and that's important. We have to know what our limits are, first of all. And once we know what our limits are, then we need to let people know what they are, what we're going to tolerate from people and what we won't tolerate as far as the behavior goes around us, you know what I mean? That's very important. And but in order to do that, we have to know what that is. Oh, I have to sneeze. Sorry about that. Tell yourself that you are worthwhile. Allergies. We have to. That is so important. And some people would think that that's not important. They think it's kind of something that's silly or something. To talk to yourself and tell yourself you're worthwhile. But actually, if no one told you that as a child and no one's telling you that now, you really have to tell yourself that because we have to become our own nurturers. If you didn't grow up in a home with, where someone was nurturing you, whether it was your mom or dad or someone in the family was showing you nurturing and love and care, then you need to do that yourself, right? That's just so important. Someone's actually letting me know that they can't see my show. A good friend of mine is telling me that my show is it's not coming up on the actual show page, like it's coming up for my show from last night. So, but it's still there. But I wonder if maybe it's just there's something wrong with BTR. Blog Talk Radio has problems quite often, with whether or not we can get into our shows half the time is a real problem, and sometimes stuff's not streaming properly, and then there might be a lot of static on the air. And Blog Talk Radio, and it's a great way to get information out there and to talk to people and to do these shows. And I really like Blog Talk Radio, but I think there's still lots and lots of problems with it. I have noticed that over the last 6-7 months that I've been doing this. So I don't know how to help people to listen to the show, but hopefully you can catch the archive and just listen to the archive. So we're going to look at today creating physical boundaries. And these are things we can do physically to help us to set boundaries and to learn and recognize boundaries, right? And he's listed off here, hold your belly in or hold a set of your muscles taut. So hold your belly in and feel it, feel yourself doing this. Feel a wall or bubble around yourself that keeps out what you want. That is really important, and especially when you feel like you're just being under attack, and whether it's spiritually or flashbacks or whatnot, you can feel a wall or bubble around ourselves that keeps out what we want to keep out. So we can keep out that negative energy. We can keep out those negative feelings and thoughts by not allowing them to come past that barrier, that wall, that protective bubble, whatever we place around ourselves. It is so important. Feel your energy or sense of strength, and allow ourselves to feel this stuff, right? Feel yourself being tall or getting taller, being stronger and taller, and not weak and not small and not things that people might have told us, right? We have to feel ourselves strong and tall, And it says cross your arms or legs. That's kind of interesting. I guess, body language is huge. And by crossing your arms and crossing your legs, you're basically telling, maybe the abuser, that you're not going to acknowledge them, and that you have set a boundary, right? So it's really important, I think, to do that. And they did say, like, in body language is so important, right? And I don't know a whole lot about body language. That would be quite something to study, really, something to look into, because how we or how we use our body to show people what we're thinking and what we're feeling is very interesting. And I know that if I'm, I try when I go for a job interview, I try not to do that. I try to remain kind of just in a position where I'm not looking like I'm actually just not interested or don't want to get to know these people. So I try to stay very open looking even with my body positions, you know what I mean? Like, I don't cross my legs and I don't cross my arms, and I just sit kind of tall, you know what I mean? Body language is huge. It's quite interesting how it actually does make a difference with people, right? It says here, move to a location where you feel stronger or more protected. Experiment with changing your posture to a position where you feel grounded and empowered. It says, wear clothes or accessories that make you feel better, more protected, or stronger. And I've heard lots about that. Wearing clothes, certain colors, certain accessories will actually make us feel stronger and better and feel better. And that's quite interesting, I think. Be aware of colors that give you strength or a sense of confidence. And using your body and no words, practice saying no. Don't mess with me, back off. Now that's using your body and no words. So I guess we can do this if we practiced enough. We could use our body to say no. Don't mess with me, back off. Just by our body position, by how we are actually standing and what stance we take, right? So that's quite interesting, I think. It says use the body sense to say no to what caused the internal memories of old pain. So if we have a lot of flashbacks, or things come back and we just feel so down about things from our past, from growing up abused as a child, we can use that body sense to say no to what caused those memories of old pain, right? And that pushes them away. It just basically says, no, I'm not allowing you to hurt me again. I'm pushing you away. And it says, feel a physical and time distance between yourself and the old hurts. And that's quite a good thing to do, I think, because I know, I had a lot of problems, especially I'd say the last, like 4 or 5 years ago. I was just having some real problems with flashbacks and whatnot, and I just was feeling so emotionally down that it would all just kind of come back, and sort of haunt me, right? And by putting physical and time distance between ourselves and the old hurts, it really does sort of show you that as an adult, that is very far away from us, and it happened a long time ago. We can sort of say these things to ourselves, that it's not close to us anymore, and that we don't have to allow it to hurt us again. And even though we know how hard it is, I decided that I didn't want to completely forget. I used to say when I was younger, and even just, as much as 5 years ago, that I wish that I could just erase my memories, you know what I mean, and erase all that stuff. And then I thought about it, and I thought, no, because I would be really erasing who I am, you know what I mean? I thought about that, because I thought, would it really, be something that I would benefit from? And then I thought, no, because I want to stop child abuse. So if I erase all the stuff, then, okay, I go on to have a great life, and you know what? Then what I actually want to do and stand for will be gone. You know what I mean? Because the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing is because I know how hard it is, and I know how completely horrific it is that children are being abused right now. And so that's the whole issue. I decided that I did not want to lose those memories, and also those memories, they are what keeps me going to fight this fight. And especially when I think about my brothers, especially, it's kind of like I'm keeping my memories alive for them and for what they suffered and went through. You know what I mean? So I thought about that very seriously, but I thought I need to learn how to control these memories, and I need to learn how to put them in their proper place. they're in the past and they're not in the here and now. And so as I started to learn how to think about it properly and to allow myself to go ahead and acknowledge the abuse, and then, but what I did was I decided to put it where it belonged, which was in the past. And so, as I started to do that, I started to feel better, especially the last, 3 years for sure. And I don't have as many flashbacks. I still have some, but I don't have they don't affect me the same way, because I put them where they belong, which is in the past. And so, and I don't allow that pain to hurt me like it used to, you know what I mean? Because I decided that was a long time ago. I don't have to carry that pain any longer, you know what I mean? I don't have to allow myself to be destroyed by this as an adult. I can go on to have a good and decent life, and a happy life. And what makes me really happy is knowing that I can try to help other people, and especially regarding child rights and, making a difference on this planet for children today, tomorrow, and the next day, you know what I mean? So that gives me a lot of peace. That brings me a lot of, peace just to think, okay, I hope we can do something, you know what I mean? Because this has to change. And so, in doing so, it allows me to give back, to try to make sense of what happened to me. It also allows me to feel good about myself, feel good about something that I'm doing, which I truly feel that I can't do anything else, you know what I mean? I've had lots of different types of jobs, and I've done different things in my lifetime, and none of it had to do with child rights, and all of a sudden it just hit me. My passion really is helping people, and so, it's really the only thing that I can do now. I can't go back to it. I mean, I'm still working a regular type job, but it's not satisfying. It's not fulfilling what I need, which is to bring peace into my heart, which is to help people to overcome this stuff, and also to help change these issues regarding child abuse worldwide. And I thought, well, what else do I have to do with my time? You know what I mean? I'm just sitting around, hanging around on the planet, when I could be getting involved. And that gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a real sense of direction, and it gave me, some sort of sense of, almost like as if to say, I don't care, this abuse did not destroy me, and so therefore I'm going to go on, and I'm going to try to help people and help make a difference on this earth, And for most people, they don't want to be bothered doing that. Some do, and I know lots of advocates out there, personally, that work 24 hours a day. If pretty much they just sleep a few hours here and there because they have to, but they'd be working around the clock. It's to try to stop child abuse and to try to help people out. And those are the people that I really want to give a lot of thanks and gratitude to, because I'm really just one more voice to add to theirs. And so, that's the whole issue, right? Standing united together, we can really seriously make a difference in this thing. And we need everyone's voices, right? So that's why it's so important. That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because as a survivor of child abuse, we know how serious this stuff is, right? And so it's just important not to allow this, what happened to us, in our childhood, ruin the rest of our adult lives, right? So we have to be able to put some physical and time distance between ourselves and those old hurts, It says, see the distance between you and others, and that's to visually, see how far we are from others, right? It kind of helps us to see the boundaries, right? And it says, think about and listen to the distance that feels comfortable between you and others, right? So once we see the distance between ourselves and someone else, we can think about what distance, at what point would we be uncomfortable with this person if they came too close. How close would that be? That would be the boundary marker, right? If we ask ourselves these questions, how close would that be for that person to make me feel uncomfortable? And at that point, you would know that that's the boundary of your safety. That's the boundary of your comfort zone, right? Where you would feel that people should stay past that point. Then if someone comes into that zone, you can just tell them, I'm very uncomfortable with you being in my comfort zone. I think you're going to have to back up. And we can use our body language to show them, that we're serious, right? From a physical sense of practice not merging with others' emotions and issues. And that's very important, because I did that my whole life. I grew up doing that just for survival's sake. I had to be very aware of what was going on around me in the house. If you weren't paying attention, you could seriously, you could be killed in my home. You know what I mean? Like that was the kind of issue going on. Like if you weren't careful, just about anything could happen to you. So I was very much aware of what's going on, and from a young age, I had to be. It was for my own survival, and I had to be watching out for people all the time. And my dad, when I was very young, was having so many mental issues. He was very unstable mentally, right? And he's better now than he ever was. But when I was growing up, he was at his worst, and you just never knew what he was going to do, like he tried to drive me and my sister over a cliff one time in his car, and it was a little bit scary. So if you were not looking out, and paying attention to what was going on, you could be seriously hurt or killed in our home. And so I was always a little bit freaked out about stuff like that, and paying attention to what people were thinking, what people were feeling, aware of how my parents were, aware of how my brother's feelings were, and sort of taking those on. So that I could merge with them, so that I could see what was going on in their lives. My brothers were quite often really high on drugs, and so in order to relate to them, I had to be able to get into their head, and talk to them that way. And also, my mom was very depressed and manic depressive and angry, right? So she had a lot of problems, and I'd always have to get into her mind and sort of meld with her thoughts and feelings just to keep myself protected. To see what I could do to stop her from abusing me, right? So all kinds of problems with that, and I grew up doing that, and it's something that I naturally do. I have to literally stop myself from doing these things as an adult, to not merge with my coworkers at work, for instance. I mean, I literally have to make a conscious effort to not merge with them, because it's something that I do naturally. And so, and a little bit of it's okay, but not when it becomes to the point where you're just doing it all the time and you're feeling what somebody else is feeling all the time, and it becomes overwhelming. It's good to be empathetic, and it's good to be sympathetic. It's good to be compassionate, and you can't just completely shut off your emotions and forget what other people are feeling, because then that's what a lot of people do, and then I call those people just cold-hearted and rude. But the whole idea is that we don't have to take on all of everyone's emotions. And we can put sort of a boundary around how much of that we will sort of deal with, you know what I mean? And it has helped me to do that. I'm getting a little bit smarter over the years, but when I was young, I had a lot of trouble with that. And so that's all they have here for that section on the boundaries. The next portion is creating a container, and then creating an imaginary safe place. I really like that. And then creating a safe environment in the here and now. That is so important, right? And also self-nurturing. That's the next portion of of these coping lists. And these are things that we can do. Like, I really like this stuff, and I hope everybody will go and get a copy of this off of his website and check it out, because, some of it might work for you, but some of it might not. Not everything's going to work for all of us, but it just gives us some ideas, sort of, on how to go about this, right? So I find it kind of very helpful. And then once you get this information, if you see something that you think, hey, that's really interesting, I'd really like to know more about that, you can type into your browser, start typing in these different, different things, and then bring up more information on it. Start looking around, right, to see what's out there regarding this stuff, right? Because there's lots and lots of good information out there. And so creating a container is the next one. It says, imagine an object or a place where your flashbacks can be stored. And, like, we can put our flashbacks someplace and then close the door on them. You know what I mean? We can imagine this stuff. And by doing that, you kind of allow yourself to, within yourself to do that, right? To actually put them away and not allow them to take over your life or take over your day. It says, imagine the flashback in a room. Imagine a point far off in the distance, and see the room with the flashback moving off to a distant point and getting smaller and smaller as it gets further and further away. So that's something we can do if we're having flashbacks. Just imagine that this flashback is like in an inch square little box, and as maybe it's right in front of your face at the time. You can imagine it being way off in the distance in the room somewhere and getting smaller and smaller and smaller. These are things that we can do to, in our mind, to help us to deal with this stuff, right? It says find an actual object for storage. Like we could find a box, or something, a cardboard box or something, or a jar at home with the lid on it. It says write down flashbacks or draw flashbacks and put them in the container. And they can be taken out at a later date if desired, right? So we can actually find something in our home, and we can write down our flashbacks on a piece of paper or draw them. If we don't want to write them, we can draw them. And then we can put them in, we can just fold these pieces of paper up and put them in these containers, these jars or these containers, boxes or whatever. And then we can take them out and look at them if we want to, or throw them away, tear them up, whatever we want to do. But at least it's a place, it creates a physical place for us to put our flashbacks, so that we can, in our mind, we say, if I can put this flashback in that container and put the lid on it, then that means that I have control over that flashback, right? I'm the one with the control. So, and that's the whole issue. As adults, we have to be in control of our healing. We have to be in control. Really, we're in control of our lives, right? And I mean, that's the whole issue, right? As an adult, we are in control of our lives. And if you don't control your life, someone else will control it for you. And not only that, but if you don't stand up for yourself as an adult, and you take more abuse on, you're not doing yourself any favor, because you don't have to. As an adult, you literally have the right to say no. As a child you do too, but so many times children are abused, and I mean, obviously that's what we're talking about, and that's where we're coming from. But the whole issue is, children do have rights too, but just nobody wants to acknowledge that. But the whole issue is we don't have to take this crap as an adult any longer, right? And it doesn't mean that we have to get violent or, hurt people or hurt ourselves. What it means is that we can get some help, and we can move forward, and we can heal, and we can learn how to have a good life, and not allow the abuse that we suffered as a child to destroy us. And that's the important thing, Like, I like these websites that they're so supportive. They're like, you survived the worst of it, and now it's up to you to move on and have a healthy life. No one's going to really do it for you. And honestly, I used to wish someone would. I was like, why can't someone just come and take away this pain? Why can't someone just be here with me to help me to get through this? This was always stuff that was going on in my mind. Why can't this? Why can't that? And it never had anything to do with me taking the appropriate steps to get any help. I was always just whining and complaining that nobody cared, nobody was around, and that was the truth, right? I mean, I really have to be honest. The only person actually that does really, I would say, really care about me in my personal life would be my sister and my sweetheart, and they care how I'm feeling. The rest of my family doesn't care. So the whole issue is otherwise they would call me. They would say, look, we do care, but they don't care, so it's pretty obvious. So that's okay. I don't have to take on their garbage, right? So my sweetheart's very supportive and stuff, but when you're abused as a child, if someone isn't supporting you in that area, you feel quite alone. My sister is in denial, so there you go. I mean, I have no support from her whatsoever regarding the issues of child abuse, and so she just lives her life she tries to live it the best she can, and she's doing the best she can. And so, it's hard. It's very hard. I did feel very much alone, but I never reached out to anybody. Then when I started to reach out, I started to see what was going on, and I thought, man, this is it. This is, as I reached my hand out, like 500 hands came back to me. And they were all reaching out to me, and I tell you, even today, I have a hard time believing that. It was an amazing situation, and I really never felt that before. And I never really knew that so many people cared. And, that's the whole issue, right? We have to reach out. We have to get help. We have to make the right steps, to make the decision to get a counselor, a therapist, group support, online group support, someone, or a group or a therapist who can help us, right? Because it's not good to suffer alone in silence. And we don't deserve to suffer as adults, right? We suffered as children, so why do we want to suffer our whole entire lives? My mom did that, so I'm trying to avoid that. And I hope that you will too. So we have about a minute left. I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children, and we'll be on tonight at Dreamcatchers Talk Radio with Elizabeth Roberts-Brawley and myself. She's the Southern Regional Director for Dreamcatchers for Abused Children in the United States, and we're going to be on for an hour at 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's www.blogtalkradio.com/Dreamcatchers, and I hope you will check it out and listen to all the shows. There's going to be some great information. We are having a great time, and there's going to be lots of guests coming on pretty soon. We're scheduling guests and whatnot. It's going to be amazing. So everybody have a great day. Take care of yourselves, and I'll be back on with my show at 9:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which is right after that show to do my child abuse prevention and human rights abuse prevention is up to us show. So I'll be right on out shortly after that. And so everybody take care of yourselves. Have a really awesome day. I just keep you in my heart, and I just, just can't say it enough. Keep holding on to that hope. Keep that hope alive, and keep yourself alive. and be well, and have a good life, right? Keep reaching out and get some help. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. Bunny, get down. Right now. You're not allowed there.